All right, Bull, Lillian, excuse me. Bull, Lillian, I appreciate you coming back. You'll remember that last week I gave you an assignment to go home and discover some of the things that you do for self-soothing. You mentioned some of those items. How did you like that exercise?
I liked it. It was helpful.
Good. Bull, did you get any revelations on there? Some things that you, some of the things that we went over were sitting in a comfortable chair or lie on your back on the floor. Is that something that really plays down your, something that you would want to do?
Honestly, I tried them a little bit, and I kind of just became frustrated with it after a period of time. It just kind of felt like it wasn't really getting me a ton of places. It kind of felt like a waste of time. You know, I could be out doing other things, and instead I'm sitting in this chair.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that it was a huge help to me, but
I noticed one of these, one of the exercises that you might really relate to as a Marine pilot is the deep breathing exercises. I know as a pilot, they teach you how to breathe, especially when under stress. What did that do to help you?
Yeah, that one I did like a little bit more, to be honest. I guess at least partially because it was something that I could kind of carry on my day while I was still doing, you know,
Good.
like I could continue with what I was working on, but at the same time, like I definitely could feel myself calming down and kind of refocusing on just the situation and yeah, just being a little bit more effective or efficient, I guess you could say.
And Lillian, I'd like to talk to you about one specific one, letting the tension flow out of each muscle group. I know you kind of hold everything together there as the caretaker of the household. Were you able to spend some time allowing yourself to just relax?
You know, it was really challenging just because I almost feel like it ends up being like a flood. So I have to like compartmentalize a lot of things, and that's how I'm able to like hold everything together. But I tried some of it once the kids went to sleep, and I knew that I could have the time to let myself maybe feel overwhelmed with all that was everything that I was allowing, and because that's just what happens, I just end up not being able to hold it together for the family and for the kids. And if I kind of open up that floodgate, so the challenge really is the time that I can allow those like soothing strategies, maybe that's what you call it, but to allow it to kind of, for me to really dive into it. But it was hard, and it was overwhelming, and I felt flooded with just a range of emotions and the spectrum, I guess.
Okay.
But once I guess, I don't want to say came back to, like, not like I was in a dream or something, but I was able to, I felt less tension actually in my body, but it was during that time that I allowed it, it was just so much, and it was just very overwhelming. So.
Good. So both of you were able to see the benefit in some of those exercises, which brings me to this next stage. Oftentimes, whenever we're not able to self-soothe, it can actually create conflict in itself. And that conflict, we perpetuate that by putting it onto the other person. Are there any things that y'all typically do right now to even worry about soothing your partner or each other?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, it's more of
Okay.
it's just more of I feel attacked, so it's more of like a wall and a barrier that I'm trying to, with my own emotions, and kind of keep that up, because it's just I feel just this emotional attack on myself, and I don't know what to do with it.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask some very pointed questions, and I'm going to give you some rules first. The first rule is be respectful of the other person. So whenever they're talking, don't cut them off or try to talk over them. I'm going to give you ample time to be able to answer the questions also. The first question that I want to ask, I'm going to direct it to you, Bull. What makes you feel flooded, overwhelmed?
I mean, I feel like I'm the kind of person that is able to handle a lot of things. I feel like I can take care of myself and get the things done that I need to get done. So I don't know that I feel overwhelmed or flooded all that frequently. I do certainly notice times where I guess I do feel some stress and pressure building, and those would certainly be times just where other people aren't doing their part, I suppose, where I'm feeling like I'm having to take on the responsibilities of others as well as myself. It's just it can become difficult when I'm doing my job and the jobs of all the people around me as well.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. With taking over the new squadron as a commander, does have its own share of responsibilities, and you're telling me that you feel capable, but sometimes you really have to get in the trenches and dredge out a solution. So that's good. Lillian, what is something that, would you answer the same question? What do you do whenever or what makes you feel flooded?
Well, the separation from his work and home. I understand the importance why, and with his work and in the military, why they address and speak and talk to each other in certain ways. And he has people that are beneath him, so he gives orders and he gives all this up. There's a structure to that environment, and I don't feel like it's an appropriate place for the home. And when that comes into the home, and that lack of separation, it's just you're right, I'm not a part of that world, nor do I want to be. I want to be your wife, and we're supposed to be doing this together.
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be complications, and we're going to have talks and discussions and family time, and we're not always going to agree on the same resolutions to conflicts, and
Mm-hmm.
that it's not black and white in marriage like it is in the military. And I don't know how else we can have more of these conversations to help that differentiation between the two environments. And it's emotionally taxing for me, and my feelings get hurt, and I don't feel that I don't feel it's acceptable.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so on that, Bull, I want you to understand that we need to work towards helping each other out. So whenever you see that Lillian is being flooded, what's a good positive way that you can not only identify that, but help her to resolve any of those issues?
Well, that's honestly something that I would say that I struggle with. It's probably not something that I am super competent in. I mean, I feel like I usually can tell when she is getting a bit overwhelmed, just, in how she talks, her body posture, things like that. I can recognize it at least some of the time. However, what to do about it is something that I don't know. I feel like that's something that I have been expected to handle more or less on my own throughout,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
part of my life. And so I guess I have the same expectations of others.
Okay, I understand that. And Lillian, whenever you see a Bull, and you know that he's really struggling with an issue or something that's affecting him emotionally at work, with his command or his subordinates, what is one way that you identify that first? What is something that he does that you can visually identify, or just sense? And then how do you try to help him resolve that?
Well, honestly, if I'm going to speak frank, he immediately just gets a drink, and
Mm-hmm.
he drinks often, and part of it does help loosen him up. And I understand that it helps him cope with some things that are going on with him. But this is part of the problem of his escalation, and I guess inability to really see how damaging it is. And
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. On the other one, so how do you try to for lack of a better word, intercede to be able to share some of that burden that he's feeling?
well, I mean, I try to keep the kids distracted, and I definitely try to, maybe when he comes home, I'll have it to where we'll go and do something else, or I try to keep the house like nice and tidy when he gets home, so at least he's coming home to something that it's all put together. And then it's quiet, so then I take the kids out and do something with them as a distraction. But as far as in the moment, I just kind of freeze, because I don't want to have it escalate and the kids to be involved, and to I'm just trying to be there for the kids. And I also understand that he's going through some struggles, and I really love him, and he's so dear to me. And I just I don't know how to help it anymore
Mhm.
without it sacrificing other areas of what I'm juggling. So that's it's just a cloud
Okay,
that's
well,
hovering.
that brings up a very good point. Bull, how do you typically bring up issues or irritability or complaints to Lillian? How do you bring those up to her?
Well, I mean, I feel I probably express them pretty forcefully most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if I'm feeling frustrated, I'll say so. I'll say that I'm feeling frustrated. Maybe not quite as calmly as I'm doing it now, but I will express the frustration, what I'm frustrated about, and
Okay, so you're pretty direct with what you say. Um, uh, Lillian, how would you describe how you bring up issues, complaints, irritabilities, anything like that to Bull?
I feel like it ranges. So for me, I kind of feel like I will kind of be direct and straightforward in some ways. Other ways, I beat around the bush and just try to kind of hold it together. And other times, I ignore it and I just don't bring it up.
Yeah. So
I don't.
let me. I know you're the caretaker of the household. So let me try to separate that just a little bit so that you can better answer the questions and be able to express what you're feeling. I want you to take that and experience that as a mother, but more importantly, I want you to answer as a spouse, not necessarily as your motherly role, but as a spouse. How would you answer that question?
I try to be. I try to be um, as caring as I can in the moment.
Yeah.
And there's some, I mean, there are some days that I'm on my B game and some days I'm on my A game,
Uh-huh.
and I'm not able to be as compassionate. But I really try to kind of hold it together and but still be frank, because I know that that's the best way for him to hear what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be, as loving as I can.
Mm-hmm. So as that, being direct, do you sometimes let things store up, or do you not really express what you're experiencing to Bull?
Well, no. Sometimes there are times that I don't. I struggle. I struggle with that, and it's definitely trying to find the time to do it
Mm-hmm.
for him. As is this a good time? Is he in the right place to accept this and to talk about it? And no, it's
So
not that.
you're just waiting for that right time for things to be right to be able to express that.
Right.
Bull, do you tend to store things up and let them really weigh on you, or do you bring them up in enough time that you don't escalate?
I would probably say that there are plenty of times where I do tend to let them store up. I keep them to myself and try and deal with them on my own, try to resolve them. And
Okay.
yeah, sometimes that will lead to some pent up frustration.
Okay. All right. That's a really good analogy. I want to ask you both. to think about something and then ask the other person, is there anything that they can do to help soothe you? Because again, we have to foster that relationship. So what is something that you can do to soothe the other person? So as an individual, I want you to Bull, you go first. Tell Lillian exactly what you need from her to be able to help soothe you, make you feel better about a situation.
I can't say that this will necessarily apply to every situation, but I feel like there are definitely some where something that might soothe me the most would actually just be to feel like essentially just to get to the solution, to resolve the problem, but in such a way that I feel like we're working towards that solution together. We are, that we're heading towards the same objective, that we're working together on it, so that we can get to where we need to go.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a second to elaborate on that, the opposite way, Lillian. But so basically, what you're saying, Bull, is go team. That's pretty much summarizes it. You just need her to really be there for you in a supportive role whenever she realizes that you're experiencing these anxieties, irritabilities, issues. Whether they be at work or with the family, it still takes away from the relationship. So very good, Bull. Thank you for bringing that up. Lillian, tell Bull what he can do to help soothe you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's more of it's hard. It's we as far as our relationship and everything, we used to have just such this, just this connection. And so sometimes it just feels like I just don't have that connection with him. And that would be helpful to just feel, I love what he said of being on the same page and on the same team. But in order to do that, I need to feel a connection, that chemistry, that sense of, I don't know, gleam in the eyes or something. And so it's kind of hard to, it's hard to talk about challenging topics when I don't see in his face or in his eyes that he's there with me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And let me we're all adults here. So I just want to say a word and you tell me whether this is what you're alluding to. Intimacy.
Right.
Okay. So, Bull, is this a surprise to you? Is it something that you feel that you can do?
No, it's not all that surprising, honestly. Like, it's not necessarily something that I have like discussed much or addressed in the past, but I can certainly see where she's coming from. Something that I can do, it probably won't be easy. I mean, I will try.
No.
I will put forth my effort. I will see what I can do, but I don't know how well it will go.
Absolutely. So again, we're working towards understanding the other. Lillian, is it a surprise to you that that's what that's what Bull needs to be able to soothe him. Teamwork.
It kind of is a little surprising. It's almost like a reflection of what I'm asking.
Yes. So I want you to both to understand. A lot of times, whenever we have conflict, either inside or outside the relationship, a lot of times that affects the way we think about the relationship. Either we're being overwhelmed or whatever. So by this, can you see how important self-soothing is before we try to soothe each other?
Right.
Does that make sense, Paul?
Yeah, I would have to assume that it would be a bit of a challenge to be able to do that when you're not calm yourself.
Yeah, I can understand that, and especially with both of your backgrounds, you both do great jobs. So I just want to summarize some of the things that we went over today. A lot of the negatives that we have whenever we experience conflict, we're actually bringing to the conflict by not being able to de-escalate ourselves, so that we can express ourselves on the issue, either temporary or perpetual. Once things that we can solve are perpetual, and both of you see the value in that. And something else that we went over was that sometimes we don't realize it, but what we need to soothe ourselves from the other person, they're giving us something that soothes them rather than something that soothes us. Do y'all see how that works?
Right.
Very good. Okay, so next week, and whenever we meet again, we're going to go over some more of these tools that we can use to help to be successful at being able to resolve conflict. Okay?
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.